Hello and welcome to the Pole Position podcast on Let's Talk Sport and Sportskeeda with Jamie Davies and Jack Price, and we are here to review the Singapore Grand Prix, where Lewis Hamilton, yet again, his 7th win of the season, now puts him to 40 points ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Yes, his title rival finished on the podium, but in 3rd place. So straight away, a 10 points difference has helped Lewis Hamilton out very kindly when there are just 6 races to go. And really, when you look at it, it was another race where Ferrari had to win, and they've absolutely bottled it, haven't they, pretty much? You know, Ferrari have been known for it over the last few years. They did it last year at this race when both Kimi Raikkonen and Vettel collided towards the first corner, but Lewis Hamilton is just on fire at the moment, and it looks as though he is going to beat Vettel to the race for that 5th World Championship. Jack Price, how you doing?
Very good, thank you. You?
Yeah, not too bad. To keep you awake, though, after you're obviously recovering from the Singapore Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't sleep last night. It was so good.
I'm sure you did. I could have sworn I sent you a text at midnight and then I didn't get a response.
No, I was out by then.
Well, in a Brendan Hartley way, like I'm out.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to be the only inside joke us two are ever going to get, while everyone else are thinking, why is it so funny? It just is. It's Brendan Hartley.
Yeah. First lap of the Italian Grand Prix. Oh, I'm out.
Why is it so funny? It's the way he says, yeah, I'm out. I don't know why. We need to play it at some point. I need to get you know what? It should be my text message.
Find the radio message and play it. Yeah, that'll be it.
If it's a work text message, I'm out. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Hi, this is Jamie Davis. I'm out.
Brilliant. But overall, you know, I think straight away, if we're going to give this a race rating, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10.
Really?
It was so boring. Nothing happened. Is it me, or is Singapore so overhyped? I love the scenery. I love the setting. I love the history it's made for F1, but I feel like that's the only reason.
Yeah, to be fair, it's one of my favourite races, but it's not my favourite. It's a bit like Monaco, because it obviously forget the street circuit bit, but in a sense, it's a bit like Monaco in the fact that it's a great place. People enjoy going there. It's a great setting to watch on telly, but in terms of the racing, it's a bit meh. I mean, even the DRS zones, to be fair, didn't really help in any way.
No.
We didn't get much overtaking. I think, again, it was down to the pit stops. I felt sorry for the guys that qualified in the top 10, to be honest, because they had to obviously pit early, and the guys on the harder compound tyres just jumped them and somehow managed to get them in front at the end of the race as well. Look at the likes of Kevin Magnussen and that. They finished at the way back at the grid. Hulkenberg qualified well. He ended up quite far. What did he finish 10th? Actually, I say that.
Hulkenberg.
He might finish 10th.
Yeah.
So he did a good drive to try and get back up into the points, but I think they found it more difficult because once they pitted, they had to somehow find a way of overtaking these guys that were on longer stints. So. I think, it wasn't the best, obviously, for overtaking. We will obviously get more in Russia in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, I mean, I love the setting of Singapore. I love night races, so I think as a place, it's good. But I think I might be a little bit more generous. I might give it a 5 out of 10 because there were a couple of incidents, and your boy Perez made a couple of them, which did make it a little bit interesting.
What are you talking about? It was the other way around.
But yeah, I mean, it didn't amaze me, but. Yeah, it wasn't the worst one I've ever seen. There's been a few. Abu Dhabi every year is worse. So,
and it's the fact that money,
yeah.
Give it to me. That's what it's all about, isn't it? With Chase Carey, I shouldn't say that. Could be our future boss, really. God, well, we got to delete this when we go and apply at F1 down in London or wherever they're based. But Lewis Hamilton, though. I think this weekend, starting off with qualifying, that was a hell of a lap.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he gets pole positions like no tomorrow, but that was some lap. It's the fact that 10 years ago, when the first race took place, the fastest lap there was 10 seconds slower than the lap this year.
It's 3 seconds. He was 3 seconds faster than Vettel last year, isn't he? Or something?
I mean, I know the cars are a lot more faster this year and a lot more powerful, but that's still...
It's that halo.
It's that halo. I mean, I'd like to get Mercedes' halo if that's how it works. But yeah, again, we know that Ferrari has a powerful car. It's better than the Mercedes car, apparently. I beg to differ. It depends what track it is. But it's the fact that Lewis Hamilton just pushes that Mercedes car like a Fernando Alonso way, where he makes that car extra special. So this proves to me yet again, we both agreed in our previous podcast that Hamilton is a more natural, better driver than Vettel, but I think that was another good example.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk about that qualifying lap, that was an amazing qualifying lap. He literally drove the wheels off that car in that lap, and I think it shows as much as I'm a fan of Bottas, he doesn't get as much out of the car as say Lewis does. So I think in the race again, he just sort of controlled the race. The only issue he had was when the two cars who were a lap behind were fighting each other, and he was. I think that just showed how his spatial awareness was during the race, going at such speed. He had to try and get past the back markers, but he was also had to defend. You saw him defend Max Verstappen because he was coming up behind when them blue flags were going on. I think apart from that, he just drove I don't want to say an easy race, but for Lewis Hamilton, that was quite comfortable, really, when you think about it. Vettel, I don't know what I can say about Ferrari, really, because I think we've said it all many times for many years. They look so good, and then something just happens. I don't know what happens when who deals with the strategy, but putting Sebastian Vettel on the ultra softs, they were maybe going for a fast stint, hoping for another safety car, but that's the word, hope. Why when you're a championship rival to Hamilton in a Ferrari car that is expecting to be doing well, why are you using the word hope? Let's just put the same strategy on as Hamilton and see what happens. If at the end of the race there is a safety car and there's a chance of putting on the ultra softs to fight him at the very end, then do that. But when you go on a different strategy 10 laps in, Vettel's on the radio after 5 laps with them tyres going, this was the wrong decision. You just think, what are they doing? And putting Kimi Raikkonen on the softs, who they're already getting rid of for Charles Leclerc. I don't quite know sometimes. They make some really strange decisions to do Ferrari, and that does cost them. I think the car wasn't unreliable, so they can't really blame the car. I think it wasn't really the driver's faults either, and they tried their best, but I think obviously once Max Verstappen got ahead of Vettel in the pit stops, which was crucial, I think.
Was big moment.
Then he really struggled, especially to the end. So you could tell Vettel he didn't know what to say at the end of the race with them interviews, because I think Mark Webber maybe said it on the Channel 4 coverage. He said that once Verstappen had got past him, he had an hour and a half really of just sitting there thinking, what has happened in this race? And he had a whole hour and a half to contemplate everything that's maybe happened over the season as well, and chances that may have gone past him. So yeah, I think he did look like, I've lost this. As much as there's 6 races to go.
He looked defeated. You don't even need a psychiatrist or whatever to tell you that. We could tell.
6 races to go, many points still left, but he looked like we have messed this up big time. And
this is he's going up against someone who never retires from a race. He's had 2 DNFs. No, he's had 1 DNF since
Austria.
Malaysia. Yeah, Austria. You're right. And before that was his first retirement since Malaysia of 2016 with the we all know that, but it's you're going up against someone who's consistent all the time up there.
Yeah, well, I don't want to blight obviously Mercedes, but that reliability on that car is bulletproof to an extent. They only really, and it was surprising really in that Austria race to see both of them go out in the same race.
Yeah. But they fixed it straight away as well.
Yeah. I mean, that team works incredibly hard, and like I said, that reliability is to an extent bulletproof. When you look at other cars, the likes of McLaren that struggle to bloody finish a race, you just think that Mercedes team works seriously hard to try and win that constructors, and obviously for their drivers to win the championships. And I think Hamilton obviously looked exhausted after that race, which you would do. They probably lost so much kilo, of weight.
2 kilos,
sweat,
4 kilos, I think. They lose in a race. That's crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
And you'd think at 8 o'clock at night it'd be a bit cooler, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but that's just the heat in Singapore is huge. And I think as much as he won't want to admit it, I think he's one step closer to winning that championship. Obviously, as fans, we don't want him to win it immediately because the remaining races are quite boring.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of Hamilton fans and all that, I think they'll be a little bit happier after this weekend as well. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a good time to be a British F1 fan, especially when we've got Lando Norris and possibly George Russell coming in. But we'll talk more about driver transfers later on in the show. We'll talk about the podium then. Max Verstappen, he was absolutely thrilled, wasn't he? It's like he won the race, coming in second with his team radio at the end there. But he's definitely looking at the season now where he's forgetting about what happened at the start, where he had all those problems with the car. He's beaten his teammate to it, and this is the leader of the Red Bull team now. So it's all good for Max Verstappen again.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of issues. I think he said after the race that he almost stalled during the safety car because for some reason that car was having issues. I can't remember the specifics that it was, but it was struggling under low speed, and you could see him struggling to get off the line from the pit stop. Only just getting out in front of Vettel. So they were having trouble at slow speeds, but at race pace, that was a decent car. Obviously, it couldn't match the Mercedes, but to keep Vettel behind and to put him in second place, I think that was a good result for the team. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo, a little bit more difficult. He's on a different tyre option. Went to was it the Ultras or the Hypers in the last few laps of the race. Just couldn't get past Kimi Räikkönen. What was funny is there was like a little train between Bottas, Räikkönen, and Ricciardo at the end because they couldn't get past each other. I think Ricciardo is as much as there's a few races left, he's looking at Renault next year. I think he's already, once he announced that, you can tell he's already thinking about next year. So I think he's just trying to see out the remaining races. He's not going to win the title this year, so it's just about maybe getting points on the board for the team before he leaves, I suppose.
And then looking at Valtteri Bottas, who came fourth, there was a bit of talk about him at the end of the race where they feel as though he didn't perform his best for Mercedes, and he's had a frustrating year. He needs a race win, doesn't he? He needs podiums. They can look at it and think it's not enough, but at the same time, they just want to make sure Hamilton wins the race. It's just to seal those two, well, especially the drivers' championship and then the constructors. But the fact that people are talking about Valtteri Bottas not giving it his all in that car, do you think they're being a little bit disrespectful? Because Hamilton has been saying at the end of each race that Bottas has been great each weekend for him. Now, surely if Lewis Hamilton is their priority especially for the next 2 to 3 seasons, they should keep Bottas anyway and not even consider of a replacement.
I think it sums up in what Hamilton says after every race, and I think what he says in his social media and all that. As a team, and he uses the word team, we are unstoppable and all this. But he says team as everything because he never had that with Nico Rosberg. It was our side of the garage is but the whole team in Mercedes is working extremely well, I think, in these last 2 years, and I think Bottas is a major part of that. Yes, he's not winning races, but that's because as much as Bottas wants to win races, Mercedes are sort of like, if Lewis is up there, we let try and do the best for Lewis, and I think that summed it up when Germany, it wasn't even late on into the year this year in Germany, and Bottas went for the overtake, and Mercedes went, just stay behind him, Valtteri, and he went, okay, copy. As much as you could tell he was annoyed with that, he knew that Lewis Hamilton is number one driver. I think it is difficult for Bottas. I think obviously they're going to win the constructors again, so that's an accolade for Bottas. Not that Bottas wants that. He wants obviously the drivers, but as working as a team, it's still something to be proud of. But he didn't do as well this weekend in Singapore. I think he did better in the last race in Monza. But sometimes drivers don't like certain tracks, so you don't perform as well in certain areas. I think what Bottas I look forward to is he won the last race in Russia last year. It was early on in the year compared to this time, but he did win it. So I think he'll be looking to try and win that race as well.
And we'll talk about Mercedes' situation later on with another driver or two, which Toto Wolff isn't happy about. But I think you can all listeners know exactly what we're talking about, but we'll talk about that later on. There was actually a funny picture of like a cartoon. I think it's like actually from Springfield of the Simpsons of the, their water lake or whatever, that big wall.
Yeah.
The big wall is Bottas, and then there's Hamilton ahead of the wall, and then the water's like Vettel, Raikkonen, and all that. And I thought that is Bottas straight away defending Hamilton's lead or position in the race. But we'll move on. Kimi Raikkonen, it was his first race since announcing that he will move to Sauber. I must admit, I was a bit surprised by the move. I thought if you're going to leave Ferrari, that's it. Done and dusted for F1 in terms of his career. But it's great to see, actually. I can't imagine F1 without him, especially back on Thursday. I don't know if you watched it, Jack, but the driver's press conference, if you get the chance, go on the F1 YouTube channel. It's absolutely brilliant. The journalists just doing what they do, asking the obvious questions. But it's when they asked him, why are you moving to Sauber? And he just goes,
why not?
Why not? I think he just kept saying short stuff, and it's like this is the part of Raikkonen I'll miss when
he's
he
like,
leaves.
I'm just going there for 2 years just to make you guys happy, or I'm just going there just to sit there for 2 years and drive an F1 car. I don't want to be there. And everyone was laughing. You got Lewis Hamilton laughing next to him because that's the Kimi I think everybody loves. I think it would have been really bad to lose Alonso and Raikkonen in the same year. So. Quite surprised that obviously Kimi's going to Sauber, but and I was a little bit surprised because I said that maybe they'd keep Raikkonen for another year and keep Leclerc to learn at Sauber, but they've obviously decided to go for the young gun.
They went with my prediction, bitch.
Yeah, they've gone. Yeah, they've gone for Charles Leclerc, and him and Vettel. It'd be interesting actually because Vettel, as much as he's the number one driver right now, does he deserve it if Leclerc comes in and does make a good start to the season? So I think that would be interesting.
I think Leclerc's got to look at his first season and just think, look, as long as I keep the boss happy, then I'll get another year.
Yeah.
I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. And then the thing for me is if Raikkonen's going to Sauber, have they promised him more than what they've had this year? Yeah, they've had a few points, but they haven't been further up the field. And I think if you're bringing in somebody like Kimi Raikkonen, you're expecting to be higher up the field. And does that mean Marcus Ericsson would be his teammate? Would Kimi Raikkonen really want to be Marcus Ericsson's teammate? Who knows? So I think that Sauber have maybe still got a few more decisions to make. But what a great signing to get Kimi Raikkonen in your team. Yeah,
I think it says it all that Raikkonen's wants to stay there for the passion of the sport as well. I don't think he's there for the money anymore. I mean, okay, obviously he's going to get paid doing what he does, but he could have easily have gone though. But I think it's quite a nice fairy tale for him to actually possibly end where he started, because he started in Sauber back in the early 2000s, and here he is now going back to them. If anything, he's probably giving back to Sauber because of what they did for him to start his F1 career before winning a world championship.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not like you're going, say you were a couple of years ago, you were finishing your career in a HRT or a caterer, because to be fair, Sauber have got a decent car this season, so
and a great car.
Great looking car,
great paint.
Yeah. So I think it's not like he's going right to the back of the field and is going to be struggling. I think obviously they're going to be going for a few points and trying to push as far as they can. So I don't think it's a terrible move for Raikkonen, and I think 2 more years, if he does the 2 of Kimi in the sport, is a bonus for us F1 fans. Yeah,
be interesting as well. Kimi Raikkonen pretty much been in a car similar to Alonso at McLaren. A world champion competing at the bottom end, but maybe there's something that we don't know about.
Well, it's because Alonso's leaving. Kevin Magnussen needs somebody else to moan about, so put Raikkonen there.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait for that to happen because Kimi Raikkonen takes no shit whatsoever. Anyway, we'll move on then. We'll talk about the Spaniard because he finished 7th. A great finish when you look at the fact that he finished outside the top 6 of Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes, all their cars. Alonso started the race in 9th, and he knows Singapore. He's won there twice, I believe. I think it was 2010 and 2008. You know what happened in 2008, the crash gate. But that wasn't his fault. That was Piquet. Just slipped on the wheel, clearly.
Yeah.
But, anyway, Alonso, another great drive. He's clearly making the most out of his final days in F1.
Yeah, I mean, for McLaren, obviously great to gain the points when you basically only got one driver. I think
Van Dorn, where did you go?
Yeah, again, where were you in qualifying? Something like, what was it, 5 seconds
17th,
probably.
Yeah.
5 seconds behind him. I don't know. But yeah, Fernando Alonso. I think it just shows him in 7th place. Just means F1 fans are gonna miss him more. You know, we love to see Alonso. I mean, he was nowhere near anybody. He was nowhere near Ricardo, and I can't remember who was behind him in 8th, but.
Oh, Carlos Sainz.
But
who was lapped
so far. Yeah, they were so far apart from each other. So he had a bit of a lonely race. But you know, for Fernando Alonso, I think he was just sort of soaking up the atmosphere and his last, obviously, Singapore Grand Prix before he finishes at the end of the year. So I think he's just going to be enjoying the races now. There's no pressure. There's no I think real issue about it. He's just going into every race and doing his best, and obviously getting the points and be best of the rest, like you said, is quite good for McLaren, really.
Absolutely, and obviously for anyone in their job who wants to be still on top of what he does, he's got a big year next year in Indy 500, and obviously the WEC Championship and all that taking place. But anyway, his future successor, Carlos Sainz, coming in 8th there, good result for him. But let's talk about the man in the moment. Hopefully one day the myth, the legend in F1, and that is the young Monaco man of Charles Leclerc, and he got 9th. After starting in 13th, which is another good reason why Ferrari have picked him for next year.
You love Charles Leclerc, don't you?
He liked an Instagram post. That's it. That did it for me. You can take me now. Not in that way. I'll buy you. I'm trying to buy your cap, Leclerc, but your caps keep going sold out on the Alfa Romeo Sauber merchandise store. But
is Marcus Ericsson still available?
Yeah, easily.
You just changed the number.
Yeah, but can you imagine in the future when you have a grandkid like, who's that, daddy? Or granddad, that'd be a bit weird. You'd be like, Marcus Ericsson. Who's that? Exactly, son.
He was the teammate of the F1 world champion, Charles Leclerc, in 2018.
Future.
Yeah.
F1 world. I could just imagine. Marcus Ericsson, that is. Who's that? Exactly, son. Exactly. But yeah.
Poor Marcus.
It could be it. He could be here next year. His seat might be secured now.
I thought you meant here and talking to us.
When we have Marcus Ericsson joining us on the pole position. Yeah. I hope he doesn't hear this. If I do, send him an email and invite him.
There's another bit we got to delete.
Yeah, another bit. Oh God, that's a long list of to-dos now. But Charles Leclerc, you were a bit surprised. I'm not going to go and take the glory and say that I predicted it. I must admit, I thought the closer we were getting to the end of the season, I thought, it's not going to happen. He's going to stay another year. But Ferrari have clearly grabbed the opportunity with both hands, because it's a great opportunity, really, if they want to, I say try and make a great team, but they can't seem to do that at the moment.
No, and maybe a bit of fresh blood in the team will help, and certainly young. As well in Charles Leclerc, I think it is a great signing. I just felt it would be maybe a little bit of surprise if they decided to do that, especially with how well Raikkonen's been performing in the last couple of races. You know, he's really shown that he's still got it, but obviously maybe Ferrari had made that decision earlier than these performances from Raikkonen. Perhaps they made the decision a few months back, and we don't know. So, you know, I think it's a good decision to have Leclerc and Vettel in the same team. I said earlier it would be interesting to see what happens next season if Leclerc has a few good starts to the season. But I would like to see Leclerc fighting at the top there. I think that's what we want to see. So, as much as he's had a great season in that Sauber, I think we'll all be looking forward to him in that red overall in the Prancing Horse car next season.
Which you can actually go on Google Images and there's already one done.
Have they?
But that was him testing or something like that. It's like, no, you want you as a main driver. Okay? I don't care if you photoshopped it. They do this for football. Like before Zlatan signed for United, they put him in a United shirt. I'm like, I just want to actually see the photo shoot. Because they do photo shoots for these drivers now, don't they? For the F1 graphics, I can't wait to see Leclerc in a Ferrari suit. But then I'll hate Ferrari if you... I'll tell you what, here's my rant to you. Well, not a rant. Here's an open message to Ferrari. Dear Ferrari, I'm Jamie Davis. I'm a proud fan of Formula One. And can I just say, I have always admired your contribution to Formula One since it started back in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. Now, I do have one problem. Mm-hmm. You have signed Charles Leclerc, one of my favourite new drivers, and he's come from a team that has produced great drivers. Sergio Perez.
Sorry.
I thought you were going to say something. Bad cough. Take some of those tablets.
Yeah.
Back to my email. I would like to say, don't fuck this up, because he is a great driver. And I do worry that the last person who was good for you was Kimi Raikkonen, and that was 11 years ago. Stop living in the past and get rid of Bedene, and let's bring in somebody else, shall we?
Oh dear.
I don't know. I'm joking. I maybe we should get Stefano back in.
Dominicali.
Yeah, he disappeared, didn't he?
He's in the same lake as Martin Whitmarsh and all them.
Must have cost Ferrari a bit of travel expenses. Apart from that, though, it was clearly worth it.
He was on that podcast, didn't they? Actually, the one that F1 actually do.
Oh,
the one that I haven't actually listened to yet.
No,
because it's not as good as ours.
Exactly. I can't be bothered.
No.
Yeah, we admire all our competitors.
Yeah, we've had Karun Changdok.
Yeah, we've had Karun Changdok. You're right. Yeah. We might have to get him back, actually.
Yeah.
We'd love to get him back. Especially for Sports Keeda, especially with him being an Indian driver. Anyway, but yeah, just don't fuck it up. So,
just put that PS again.
Again, don't fuck it up. It's only Mercedes. They're not that difficult, are they? Well, anyway, Nico Hulkenberg 10th. So he'll be delighted because I think the last 3 races he didn't make the top 10, and I think he had double retirement. So he'll be happy with that result. Marcus Ericsson, then he finished 11th. Do you think his seat is secured then for Sauber because of this transition that's happened?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's obviously still talk about where Van Dorn's going. Obviously, Pascal Wehrlein's left Mercedes now.
Has he gone completely?
Yeah, they've left their relationship with Mercedes is over. So obviously he's free to, I guess, move wherever he wants. So there's a possibility he might come back and maybe join Sauber. I don't know. I just feel like with Sauber signing somebody as big as Kimi Räikkönen, they must have given him a assurances that they're going to be a bit higher up the table, more consistently higher up the table. And I think, do they think Marcus Ericsson will be the one to help Kimi Räikkönen push on? I don't know. I don't dislike Marcus Ericsson. I think he's a nice guy off the track when they interview him. I think he's a decent driver, but is he the same caliber of Kimi Räikkönen that can progress the team more? I don't know. So I think, obviously his seat's still up there, but obviously there's still loads there. The 2 Williams guys we don't know. 2 Haas guys we're not sure about yet. So everything is as much as all the big guys have really signed their contracts, we don't know about the lower teams. So there's still a lot in the driver market to discuss.
Moving on, Stoffel Van Dorn. Shit. Future F1 driver. Sorry, Stoffel. I keep forgetting.
If you take some of my tablets.
Yeah, that was lovely. Stoffel Van Dorn at 12th, even though he did start the race 17th, which I guess I kind of gave him a little bit of slack in the driver ratings that you can find.
What did you give him?
I can't remember. I'll have to have a look. Not much. Much more than he should have got, probably. I'm a bit too kind when it comes to giving things to people. But Pierre Gasly, well, it was quite... I mean, he had a bit of a dull race, just like us fans did watching it. But Pierre Gasly was actually having a moment with Charles Leclerc fighting for it. And as one of the commentators said, I think it was Ben Edwards for Channel 4, saying, these are 2 future F1 winners, I'm sure. So bit of a preview for next year, maybe, Jack.
Yeah, a Red Bull driver and a Ferrari driver next year battling it out. So yeah, that was good to see. Obviously, nothing really came of it because it was a bit boring, and he struggled to overtake. But again, like you said, it was a nice preview of what's to come next season. 2 really young drivers getting the chance in 2 of the biggest teams in the sport. So yeah, I mean, again, we keep saying it, but F1 does look promising in terms of who's on the grid next season at the top. So, we have got a lot to look forward to, as much as there's still these dull races. Again, there was announced of was it 2021 cars, the concept cars?
Oh, they look very sexy.
They did look nice
Apart
as well.
From the Halo.
Well, I think they've integrated the Halo in well now.
Okay.
I look at it now and I don't really see the Halo. I'm not really bothered about the Halo. I don't know if you are. I don't know if other F1 fans are. But I look at it.
I think when I just see it as a picture, I think you're right. During the race, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe when it's the onboard camera. But I've noticed now they did it with Nico Hulkenberg's car. When they have the over-the-shoulder camera.
Yeah.
That they used to do. I think they finally done it, and it was, I don't know if it was the first time, but Hulkenberg's car had it on, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah, the first couple of races of the year, the over-the-head camera, you couldn't see anything because of the Halo.
Yeah.
So they hadn't positioned it very well. But I think obviously the more races have gone in, the more they've got used to it. And they've also put them 360 cams in front of the Halo device now, so that you can also look around. They did it on that pole app, and just to see as low as the car was on that 360 cam, as fast as Hamilton was going on that street circuit. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. That was a magnificent piece of camera work just to put that on that car. So, I think F1 are all going in the right directions with the concept cars and obviously the drivers for next season. So yeah, it's all promising. They just need to make the races a little bit more exciting. I want a 7 out of 10 every race, and that sounds like a lot, but it's not.
Where's your aspirations? You want a 10 out of 10?
Well, obviously I want a 10 out of 10, but I don't want an Abu Dhabi Grand Prix where it's 4 out of 10, or a Singapore that you rated what
2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if it was 2 out of 10, but
I mean, it might have been a 2013 race where Vettel had already taken the lead, and he just kept increasing
50 seconds ahead of second place.
Oh my God, those days were so dull, weren't they? the second half of 2013 was dreadful. I'll never ever remember it. Well, try and forget it. Anyway, moving on. Lance Stroll, talk about him in a minute. He got 14th. Grosjean for Haas, not a great weekend for him or the team, with 15th. Sergio Perez, amazingly, didn't get a DNF despite his
He didn't get a black flag either, which I was surprised about.
Oh yeah, 2 collisions though. What? This is a bit of a surprise, especially for myself as a big Perez fan.
Sorry,
you always seem to cough at the right moments,
take
don't
some
you?
Tablets.
Yeah, take those tablets because you're coughing at the wrong times, aren't you?
I know.
But Perez, 7 years of experience in F1. There's no real excuse. He made errors that I would make on an F1 video game, which is
on purpose.
On purpose. Yeah, on purpose. Yeah, I'll do it by accident. But Perez, first time, goes into Ocon's way, which at the start of a race, they always say it's a basic error that you should be aware that there's every car you can think of behind, side to side, and in front of you. But Perez got rid of Ocon, where it's stressful times for the Frenchman.
Yeah, I don't. The one that I'm more annoyed about is the second one. But in talks of the first one, obviously you don't hit your teammate. That's something that every driver is sort of drilled into their mindset. Do not. It doesn't matter what lap you're on, first lap, last lap, don't hit your teammate. And the only thing I could think of when I was seeing the replays, constantly when the safety car was on, because they just kept showing it, was that the Haas driver, I don't know who it was, of either Grosjean or Magnussen, was on Perez's inside. Obviously, once he turned in, whoever it was in the Haas had backed away. So there was nothing for Perez. He was okay for Perez to move over and sort of give enough room to Ocon. But for some reason, Perez just stood there and sort of moved to the right in the racing line. And Ocon was wheel to wheel with him. So it wasn't like Perez didn't see him. You can't say that you didn't see him, because if you didn't, then you're obviously not a great driver, because you're supposed to be looking and, like you said, being spatially aware of everything. Yeah. So, yeah, to not see your teammate, I mean, he's pink. He's in a pink car. I mean, you can't not miss that car.
The Pink Panthers.
And yeah, for Ocon, it's just not what you want. His hands go in the air. I don't know whether that's just annoyance of being out, annoyance of obviously not being able to prove his worth, or annoyance of being hit by his teammate on the first corner or the second corner or whatever it was. It's that little chicaney bit, isn't it? But it's like, it's so disappointing for Ocon, because like we said, I think I said the other day on one of my articles, he's the best driver that hasn't been signed on that grid at the minute.
Agreed.
How I don't know. I mean,
money.
Yeah,
give it to me.
But I don't understand actually how Williams haven't gone for him, because they say, it's all about Mercedes.
And he's a Mercedes. Yeah,
but they've got a Mercedes engine in that car.
Yeah.
So how can they not form a deal with Mercedes? I don't get it.
Well, in all fairness, Williams haven't decided on anything yet, have they? Because Stroll is apparently going to take Ocon's seat. Sergei Sorokin is not confirmed yet.
No, but he did perform well. He did perform well on the weekend. He defended that car like anything, and he can't try and overtake because it's so rubbish.
Yeah,
but to try and defend against Perez, and obviously Perez got angry with him, obviously trying to knock him off the road. But I think Sergei Sorokin did a good job, and I think one of them drivers is still going to be there. So Stroll is obviously not going to. So I think Sergei Sorokin will stay, but I think you need I don't know how Williams can do it, but they have to get Ocon in that seat. Obviously there's talk of George Russell, and that would be great for another English guy.
You know what this means? The chances of Kubica coming back are very slim.
I know. Kubica's another one, but I think if you're Williams right now, as much as everyone would like to see Kubica in, whatever you've got to do, get Ocon in that car.
Yeah.
Even if you have to ask Sergei Sorokin for more money from his side to balance it out. I honestly, you can't let Ocon sit on the sidelines for a year because people forget about you. As much as Ocon's a great
look
driver,
at Pascal Wehrlein.
yeah, he's been gone a year and people have almost forgot about him.
And
It's
now
only
he's-
that this news has come out that he's left Mercedes that's made it a bit more intriguing in terms of the driver market next year. But yeah, we can't lose Ocon in the sport, and I think Williams have just got to try and do what they can if they can. But yeah, it's disappointing for him. Obviously, he's got a few more races yet to try and prove his worth to someone, but yeah, to lose it to your teammate in the first corner is not brilliant, is it?
Going back to Perez, what do you think should happen to him? Do you think he should get a race ban or anything like that because of his actions?
Well, they already give him a 5-second penalty. Do they go back on actions? Is it a bit like?
I think if it's done in the race, they can. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because obviously there's some sports where if they've made a decision and they made a decision in the race, say, they can't overlook it later on. But I looked at that. It wasn't the first incident. I let him off in the first incident to an extent.
But when you do it twice.
But the second one, he's wheel to wheel with Sorokin, and he just pushes him almost into the wall, and you just think that is a really dangerous maneuver. That could be a very costly one, not just for yourself, but Sorokin. I mean, it goes straight into the barrier. Who knows what could happen? There's cars behind you. I honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised in that case if he'd got what's the one where you're disqualified? Is it what flag color is it? Is it a black flag?
It is a black flag, isn't it?
There's a black and orange one, isn't there? I can't remember what the black and orange one is, but there's I think I wouldn't have been surprised if he got one because that is seriously dangerous driving.
Yeah.
You can't say. I think he said something after the race of I was trying to sort of cut him off to an extent of I'd made the move and I was already in front of him. But when you look at it, he's wheel to wheel with him.
Yeah.
There's no way he's got past him. So I just think it's very dangerous driving. I think he was lucky to finish the race, to be fair. So where did he finish? 16th?
Perez finished 16th, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should be happy he's finished there, if I'm honest.
Followed by Brendan Hartley in 17th. He wasn't out.
Poor Brendan.
He wasn't out.
He wasn't out.
He wasn't out. He actually said, I'm in. But he may as well have been out because he didn't do anything. But his seat looks under pressure. In the press conference the other day, they asked him about Helmut Marko, mentioning that there could be 10 drivers up for the seats. I don't like Helmut Marko. Well, no one does, but neither does Christian Horner, but he just has to do the smiley. Hey, boss.
It's Helmut again. Hi.
Yeah, you tosser. but
delete. That's another delete.
That's the 5th time today, or 33rd. I can't remember. No. But for Hartley, it looks as though Daniel Kvyat might be going back.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I mean, there's the Russian Grand Prix coming up, so we could have 2 Russian drivers next year, which I guess is good for Russia. Yeah. But anyway, moving on. Kevin Magnussen 18th with this will annoy some of us because Alonso got fastest lap at one point, and then Kevin Magnussen, his best mate, his best chum, his friends for life, actually ended up beating him in a good banter way. A 1 minute 41.9 seconons was the fastest lap by Kevin Magnussen in 18th. So there must have been a bit of a gap between him and the drivers in front, but. Alonso would be delighted with that news, knowing that his last chance to get fastest lap in F1 had been stopped by his best mate.
But he probably giggled because he realised Magnussen finished at 18th, so does it really matter?
He probably thought,
karma.
Karma. 11 places behind. Great. And Sergei Sorokin last, which is a shame, really, because he did have a good race, but sadly the result will not shine of what he did, but I'm sure the Williams team can look at him thank his efforts for it, even though Lance Stroll got 14th. So last one really is retired Esteban Ocon, as we've already talked about. But the next one's Russia in 2 weeks' time. So really, it's even by then we might have some new driver transfer announcements. We'll let you know, of course, on Sportskeeda. But anything you're expecting in the next 2 weeks, Jack?
I don't know. It's difficult. I think Haas should have made a decision. Really, I think somebody said Kevin Magnussen said that they're not far away from deciding who their drivers are. I think Haas will be sort of the next ones to announce something. I mean, neither driver is secured yet. Obviously, Toro Rosso with Brendan Hartley saying that's still not confirmed. So there are a lot of driver places that still need to be filled. I want to hear about. I think the one I'm more interested in is the Williams one. I want to know if Stroll's going to Force India or not. I think you just need to announce that. They already think Ocon's gone. There's already talks about Stroll going, and I think that's the one that needs to be announced, because then okay, Williams Stroll's gone. Williams need to find a couple more drivers if Sirotkin isn't announced. So I think that one's the one. I think we need to know as F1 fans, and obviously as me and you who write an article, is we need to know whether Stroll is going to Force India or not, because I think that makes an effect of what's going to go on in the driver market till the end of the year.
Yeah, and don't do it out the blue either, you F1 teams, because then we have to stop what we're doing.
Yeah.
Stop the press.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've got to write an article.
Can't
Quick.
write an article. Oh, God damn it. Doing it while I'm enjoying my beer.
Yeah. Or while doing it while the Singapore Grand Prix is on, because I got loads of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing going on in the race. Anyway, overall, on that bombshell of what was a scintillating Singapore Grand Prix, if you are the person who was there.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it was pretty dreadful for us TV viewers. My thanks to Jack Price, as always. And my thanks to you folks at home for listening to the Pole Position podcast. And we'll be back after the Russian Grand Prix, which takes place in 2 weeks' time. See you later.